Welcome to BizTech's SME show, where we feature SMEs, both small and large, sharing their entrepreneurial journey and also imparting the lessons that they've learned. But today, we have a special edition of the SME show, where we take a look at the SME space from a macro as well as a micro perspective. Now, our guests today to share their insights are Nitesh, Malani, Mahendra, Kumar, Chairman of Yayasan, Usahawan, Malaysia, and its founder of the SME and Entrepreneurs Business Awards, as well as Syed Sadiq Albar, Managing Director at Usaha Teknikal Sdn Bhd and co-founder of Project 57. Sadiq received the Social Entrepreneur of the Year Award 2020 from SEBA, the SME Entrepreneurs and Business Awards. Now, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Nitesh, we're going to start with you and tell us a little bit about Yayasan Usahawan Malaysia and the SME Entrepreneur and Business Award, SEBA.
Sure, Brian. Yayasan Usahawan Malaysia was a platform originally co-founded in 2013. Looking at how we are able to bridge the challenges that we have between the private and the government sector. I think it's a very typical entrepreneur problem that we have most of the time. It was established as an NGO, and it is still an NGO generally, ran by like-minded individuals, and I've been chairing it ever since then. And it was way back in 2016 where we had a proposal that came our way and says we should establish a business recognition platform. And that's how SEBA was founded in 2016. It has been a 5 years long journey, and we felt along the way as we started, one of the key recognition that had to be established was social entrepreneurship. So year in, year out, we have recognized so many social entrepreneurs, and I think Syed is our 5th social entrepreneur in 2020.
Okay, and I want to now zoom into you, Syed. Now, your Social Entrepreneur of the Year Award 2020. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Okay, so Project 57 was established in 2015, and why we were born was basically looking at the trajectory of the country. We felt that someone within the private sector, or at least even as an individual, had to play its role in trying to create positivity in the country, to encourage and foster greater unity, and also to basically make people feel that it's wonderful and great to be patriotic. It's important to be patriotic. So we felt that the trajectory of the country at the point was going to an all-time low. There were a lot of things with regards to racial or religious tensions, extremism, and all of that. And it's not unique in Malaysia; it's worldwide. But we're focused on Malaysia, and this is something which we felt very personal about, and how we actually grew up in a country which is so multiracial, multicultural, ethnic, and everything. So we wanted to play our role to make sure that we're not just talking about it in a kedai kopi. The issues and the problems that we actually face, but we wanted to be part of the solution, and we're probably just a small part of it, but I think it is important to play a part and be part of the whole puzzle. We wanted to make sure that we did our bit to try to foster greater unity amongst Malaysians. So that's in a nutshell.
Now, Sadiq, could you kind of, you've had a journey for a couple of years now. What have been your key success factors? Key successes that perhaps you have achieved? Are they something tangible that you can share with us?
Sure. Well, one of the most important things, especially because one being a social enterprise is already challenging, but the other thing being a startup, right, is to be able to survive, have that longevity. And we've been around now for 6 years, so this is something which we're very proud of. And also, when you want to look at in terms of successes and all, we look at the people that we've actually impacted. So not by design, we have, worked with Orang Aslis and had the opportunity to work with Orang Aslis and the underprivileged within the underprivileged community. And we have impacted their lives. We know that we have, because several of them have already, quite a number of them actually, have received scholarships through our programs. And from there, from the proceeds and the money that we channel towards supporting them, supporting their livelihood, in a sense that last mile. Somebody gets a scholarship and you actually think, yeah, go ahead and study. But actually you forgot that somebody's got to buy textbooks, somebody's got to, there's transport, there's actually food, there's lodging and all these other kind of things. So we help manage that last mile gap to make sure that that is end to end. So we help them with the scholarship, but at the same time, all those other things. So we've had a lot of success stories with regards to our Orang Asli youths. I can point out stories to you if you have time, but...
and I'm going to come back to that because I think that solves a very big problem that a lot of times in Malaysia, we don't think it through to the nth degree, which is basically, for example, which is what you pointed out. How does the guy get from maybe the village that he is in Pahang because he's got a scholarship to perhaps a scholarship, the university that he's studying in Johor. And he probably needs to raise money or borrow money traditionally to even make that journey.
Can I share something with you? And this is a life story. Okay, so when we first started we had a retail outlet. And at the retail outlet, that's the introduction of the Orang Asli youth. They came on board as retail trainees. And I used to actually man the shop with them, just to make sure that give them training and all, and my partners as well. But I asked them every morning when they arrived, I say, hey, how much did it cost for you to get here? And they used to tell me 10 ringgit.
Wow.
And that's just getting there and then coming back. And then it takes them an hour and a half. So, you're already 3 hours you've lost. 20 ringgit you've lost, and on top of that you've actually got to think about food. So, and that's just basic, that's just survival.
Correct.
So these are the kind of things that sometimes we we're not made aware of, or we're oblivious to, which is really unfortunate, because these are the people that are the next generation that we actually have to make sure that we take care of.
Now, I'm going to go back to Nitesh right now. Nitesh, what brought you the awareness that really you need to highlight all these social entrepreneurs? And you've been basically ahead of the curve in terms of your awards to social entrepreneurs.
Brian, I think Sadiq said that right. One of the most important thing is, as we established, and if we looked at the way that we ran SEBA throughout the years, we added a lot of credibility to what we speak. If you look at our recipients in the past and even in the current year, they bring in a lot of leverages. It's not because Sadiq is doing something that's nation building and we selected him out of the many that were on the list. But I think one of the most important thing is, how do we recognize individuals or organizations who add a lot of value? Value in terms of entrepreneurship, value in terms of business growth, value in terms of they themselves providing to the ecosystems. We have had social entrepreneurs in the past, because we're talking on the topic of social entrepreneurship, who has created a huge impact. If I may name one or two, I think Raj Ridwan Singh, our first social entrepreneur. I mean, Sadiq, you would agree with me. I think Raj has
fantastic.
Played an amazing role over the years, just not as a social entrepreneur, but as an entrepreneur by himself, doing extremely well. So a lot of people ask us, is social entrepreneurship not profitable? I would disagree with that. I think social entrepreneurship can become profitable if it's done correctly. And I think that drove us at SEBA to say that this category of individuals are people who will give back to the society. And that was one of our criteria, whether it's qualitative or quantitative in nature. We never looked at the turnover of what Sadiq did as an entrepreneur, but we did look into the contribution that he has had over the last 4 or 5 years, and moving forward, the plans that he ought to make a difference to the society.
And I think, gentlemen, you guys are in a space where you are able to influence, because one of the things it should be is which my thoughts are, is really around every company doing something in social entrepreneurship. So rather than social companies that are focused on social entrepreneurship only, it should be, from a Malaysian psyche for us, part of our DNA, as whether we're a 2-person company or a 2,000-person company, that social entrepreneurship should potentially be part of our DNA, and we're doing something really small.
Yeah. Again, just to add to what you're saying there, is that especially with the new generation and what we as social enterprises and social entrepreneurs try to actually, in a sense, invoke, is the fact that these guys are always trying to what they're trying to look for is meaning in what they do. It's not just our generation, right? Honestly, or at least when I first started working, it was just about, yeah, you get paid and that's all that matters. But then it comes to a point in your life, you ask yourself like, hey, what else is there? And the new generation comes in with a mindset of this better be there. So it's even more important, And like what you said just now, you were talking about companies having to do it and all. The fact that we say like social entrepreneurs, social enterprises specialize in this, and we've experienced this already. We've done quite a number already, which is collaborations between even companies, like you said, 2,000 headcount company, GLCs, universities with a large number of students. This provides a nice insight and also a narrative that there are many like-minded Malaysians that actually want to do this. So they may have had the idea, they may not have had the idea, but if you didn't have the idea, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, hey, let's work with the guys that have already had a head start in this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, Sadiq, have you seen that in the social entrepreneurship space, non-profits, have you all been impacted in terms of donors and partners by the pandemic? Because obviously companies have hunkered down towards survival or trying to reinvent themselves. Have you guys been impacted?
Obviously, a lot of things that we do, especially when it comes to our education and empowerment programs, a lot of them are physical. So we've managed to go online, but I have to say that the numbers are, the numbers are down with regards to those kind of activities. We can't do those kind of things, which actually have a real impact. There is nothing beats the convenience of being online, but nothing beats meeting people physically.
Yeah.
And that is something that you cannot replace. So we've definitely felt it, but it has pushed us to become more creative. That one I have to share as well, because we had a project which I think and it's funny because it's Ramadan now. So Ramadan last year we came up with a program with one of the GLCs where we needed to make sure that everyone's always talking about frontliners, but what we did was we wanted to make sure that the frontliners felt closer to all of us, that the frontliners felt and knew that they were appreciated because they couldn't be home. So we sent treats to all the frontliners through collaborations with 4 other social enterprises, not just us. So we could have been selfish and said, we'll source everything ourselves. But instead, you force yourself to start thinking like, look, we've got to work with this one, we've got to work with other guys and all, we've got to get people included because we're not the only ones that are, in a sense, going through a tough time. There are a lot of other people. So you think out of the box.
Now, Nitesh, I want to get your perspective on SMEs and what's happening on the ground. Now, SMEs were really hit hard by the pandemic. What's the situation right now in 2021?
I think, Brian, what Sadiq said, SMEs had to relook at the way things were done. One of the good parts between the SMEs and the larger organizations is SMEs do adapt very quickly. And I think this pandemic has brought in that change mechanism to allow an entrepreneur, which is SME based. Now, SMEs generally are organizations that are doing below 25 million in turnover, but we have a lot of micro SMEs that we speak about in Malaysia that has had to innovate. Now, we have had a lot of companies moving from what they originally were doing to do businesses that were very relevant during the pandemic. We saw businesses that were doing very physical front, who never knew digital and now have gone towards digital. I mean, me myself, I was never on Zoom in 2019. I don't remember going on Zoom. But in 2020, we had to go on Zoom and learn the whole trade. We had to put up the whole facility that we are able to connect with people throughout the country and partners that we work with around. So I guess this was the room of change that we had to do as far as the SME sector was concerned. I think the next was also talking about how entrepreneurs changed very quickly was the fact that there was a new growth of businesses and individuals that had to indulge in co-collaborating. I think what Sadiq, you mentioned just now, how did you work with 4 other organizations?
Yep.
We saw a lot of SMEs now having the leverage of co-collaborating and finding a profit out of it. That's point number 2. Point number 3, I wouldn't say the government has not done anything at all. I think the government, through various agencies and ministries, have reached out to groups on the ground to see what kind of support. Now, whether this support was reached, I think this is the question mark.
I think, Nitesh, that's a very, very good point, because I think Dato Mustafa mentioned of all the digital initiatives of the tech industry, they only found that 4% was really utilized, which was, for me, mind-boggling and a shockingly low number.
I mean, we did through various initiatives that we established with Industries Unite that was co-founded by a couple of trade organizations, and I think today we have through Industry Unite close to about 140 plus trade and NGOs coming together to have a common voice. And during one of our dialogues with, for example, the Minister of Finance, Usahawan, mentioning the fact that Malaysia or the government has put aside 600 billion stimulus packages. I mean, the question is, where is the 600 billion?
That's right.
Has it reached to the ground? Who has it reached out to? So I think there's a lot of question marks here that I think the SME community is waiting for answers. And I think we as an organization that's truly funded privately, we generally get support from the government, but we are not funded even a ringgit as an organization. And we need to look at source of funds to manage various projects that we do, for example, like SEBA, where we work with partners to co-complement what we do. So the question is whether the government has done enough. I think on the front, yes, they have done, but whether it has reached to the individuals or organizations, it's a battle forward. And in my perspective, you know, COVID is not going to end the next 2 years.
And I'm not surprised. I think that's a sentiment that now has started to crystallize on many people's heads.
That's right. So people are saying that, you know, COVID is going to end after you get a vaccine. I think they are in disbelief. With the vaccine, I don't think so. COVID is going to end. It's practically a new norm. You mentioned that you've been working on digital platforms of Zoom, Brian.
Yes.
I had a couple of friends who went back to office yesterday, and they posted on social media. It is a new norm going back to office because now they had to wear a suit and go to office. While at home they could wear t-shirts and shorts and even attend whatever meeting. So I guess it's how do we continuously change the way we do things. This is the new norm. Unfortunately, my core business is in combating COVID, and we have been in the industrial hygiene business for the last 16 years.
Okay.
And I think I would be able to speak a little bit about the whole pandemic and what is it to come. So professionally, I could say, living another hat of Yayasan Usahawan, I would say this pandemic is going to be the next 3 to 5 years. So as an entrepreneur, how are you going to sustain the next 3 to 5 years is extremely essential.
And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to come back to that in terms of not just sustain, but I want us to talk about opportunities. But Sadiq, you wanted to say something.
Yes.
Could you jump in right now?
I really liked what you mentioned just now, Nitesh, because, and it's true, you know, so you're saying, you know, I think in this era, sometimes we're too focused on narrative and the story and how it comes out, when actually you should be focused on what you're doing. And this is something which is very important. And this is why, again, you know, Brian, I feel very, we feel, you know, at Project 57 also very blessed to get the award, because we were just focused on our work.
Right.
And not focused on the narrative of trying to like, hey, you know what, what can someone give us, or what can we didn't. What we did was just focus on our work, and I think you can see that a lot of people actually do that, and they're not focused on the narrative. Whereas these days, unfortunately, sometimes authorities, or they tend to look into that area too much. Like, how does it come out? Instead of, don't worry about how it comes out. Make sure you're doing the right thing, and I think it will solve many problems. Yep.
And you're right. It's about focusing on doing the right thing, and then hoping that basically the cards will all fall in place.
Just to add on that, Brian.
Sure.
We were speaking on with partners that we wanted to work on with various projects that we want to embark upon. If you look at one typical aspect, for example, car sales, and I'm not looking at Proton or the middle car levels. If you look at Bentley, if you look at Mercedes-Benz, they had the highest car sales in 2020.
Yep.
Yes.
Somebody made a lot of money. Yep. Now, this was a new norm, whether it was the equity market. I think today we hear a lot of talk about the crypto market, where we're looking at instant millionaires being born.
Yeah.
So it's a generational gap. If you ask me what is crypto, I'm learning. I'm trying to understand whether I've invested. The answer is no. But if you go and ask somebody who is in their 20s, they would say, hey, I've invested all I have in crypto and I've made 50 times my capital. So it's a generational game. We were interestingly talking about Anthony Tan of Grab, who was the Entrepreneur of the Year way back in 2016 at SEBA. We recognize what Anthony had done with My Taxi, moving on to Grab, and then taking the company to Singapore. And today we'll be seeing it as one of the largest listing of in Southeast Asia startup at 45 billion US. What did he do different? He scaled up his business. He did something that people took 50 years in 5 years.
Yes.
So I think it's an amazing story that we have had with various organizations. Let's look at Tony Fernandez at AirAsia, for example. Everybody knows him as an aviator. He owns an airline, but nobody understands that he has 15 other businesses that are generating income during the pandemic, even the airline isn't flying.
Yeah.
So having supplementary revenue generating businesses, I think, are very crucial. Just not on an SME centric, but I think all entrepreneurs should have that point in mind. As long as you're able to generate revenue in whatever time it may be, I think you're able to sustain this phase of life.
Yeah. Now, gentlemen, final questions for both of you. We'll start with Sadiq.
Yes.
What are your future plans for Project 57 in 2021?
Okay, so I have to be very candid here. I'm really hoping we can go out there, as in meet people physically again. We have quite a few plans for this year towards Merdeka Malaysia Day, where we plan to actually cycle north to south to create awareness and to foster greater unity amongst Malaysians. So this is something that we are planning to do, but it would be highly dependent on the MCO and everything like that. But at the same time, something that will never stop and always continue is our project with regards to the Unity Ribbon. That is a continuous project. We've sold 300,000 ribbons since we started. I think when I met you, Brian, the first time, I think that was the first year we actually started the project.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so to date, we've done 300,000 ribbons. So that means we've raised 150,000 just for Orang Asli, supporting Orang Asli for wages for making the ribbons. And the other thing is that all our profits for that actually go towards that. So that is something that we will continue to do because we feel that there is still a lot of traction, for that project. There's a few other plans in 2022 which we're working on, but unfortunately I cannot reveal yet. If that happens, it would really change Project 57 because for the better, and because we'll be collaborating with several other organizations that will that are like-minded like us, that actually want to make sure that we get out there even more.
Now, Nitesh, how about you? What do you intend to do with SEBA this year and moving forward?
I think the first thing we have achieved is fulfilling the 5th year of recognition with SEBA. It was a challenge. We had to postpone twice. As you know, I think Sadiq shares the same sentiment.
Yes.
We just don't know that in terms of the lockdown, it can happen next week. And I told the internal team that we have, let's get ready. The moment it's uplifted, in 10 days, we're going live. We had to work around the clock. Thank God we have a really good team at the back end doing the activation. Nevertheless, what's in it for 2021? We would like to streamline and improvise our processes in recognizing this individual. We have received a lot of inquiries in terms of collaboration and working with not only our awardees but general people out there. You know, Sadiq, for example, you said about the ribbon. I think it's an amazing initiative that if we can take this out to fellow entrepreneurs organization to work on this initiative, and I think we could sell another couple of thousand ribbons out to all entrepreneurs to support this cause.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We need to work together on things like this with everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of these initiatives coming out. You know, one thing with SEBA, Brian, when I say we, people at Yayasan and the commercial outfit have never looked at profitability of an award because we do not sell awards. And I think that's something that's what makes us different compared to many out there. So I think we are extremely careful with what we do with money because it concerns all our accounts are audited by professional auditors. And the most highlight about what we enjoy about SEBA, we have always done creative activation. Sadiq, you would agree with the activation that was held in Grand Hyatt. There is a stress on our head. What do we do next? You know, we have got ideas from event companies. Why don't you take it to a cruise ship next?
Right. Wow.
Right. So it'll be the world's first award on a cruise ship. So yeah, I mean, it's an amazing. The cruise ships are not doing well. Let's take a bunch of 200-300 successful entrepreneurs, have them on a cruise ship, celebrate and come back. So there are a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
So I think to answer that question, Brian, what we want to do different is provide extremely unique activation. We have just announced the launch of a program called the Journey with Zarif Afandi. Zarif happens to be our board of advisor, and Zarif has used his disability to his ability. And I think it's amazing. He came forward and said, Nitesh, let's launch a program. I want to speak to entrepreneurs out there and understand their journey. So that will be launched pretty soon in the next couple of weeks as we speak. He just recorded the first series, and I think he will come to many other entrepreneurs, including you, Sadiq.
Yeah.
So Zarif will be knocking on your doors to say, hey, let's have a chat.
I have to say, right, really hats off to you guys because I attended the awards with my wife, and we didn't know what to expect. We knew there was something to do with mass, but you know, being totally out of it, we didn't expect anything. We came dressed, but it was a really nice experience. It was so refreshing. It was so refreshing. Yeah.
And Nitesh, I have to say likewise, because I attended as well. It was really something innovative.
Thank you.
And I, in fact, after that, spoke to the event company as well, because I really was quite impressed that something like that was very well executed. You know, a lot of times you have a great idea, but in this case, it was also very, very well executed.
So these guys have been working with us from day one. When Jack, the owner of MD, approached me, he said, hey, Nitesh, I have an idea. I have access to an airline that's going to be destroyed and not going to be used. But you know what? The seats are there. We can take out the seats, but what do I do? And I think he had some relationship with the venue, which is Grand Hyatt.
Right.
He went to the hotel and says, look, your ballroom is empty. I have the seats. Let's go into a joint venture. And I think, we guided, we assisted, we spoke, and a lot of times that's what we do with our fellow partners and entrepreneurs out there. where we take them. So we arranged a meeting with the Minister of Tourism, spoke to the minister, presented his idea. So the point was, Grand Hyatt as a venue, as a hotel, was doing extremely well when every other hotel in town was not even having a 2% occupancy.
Yes.
So I suppose this is the point of an entrepreneurship, unique selling proposition. Take it to an idea, somebody buys it. And I think today what I understand from them is Hyatt Global wants to take this concept and put it in different hotels throughout the world.
Interesting.
Wow.
But gentlemen, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Nitesh and Sadiq, for being on the show.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you,
And
Nitesh.
before I end, also, I've got to say that we would be happy as BizTech, being a regional platform, to support both of your initiatives in whatever way we can.
Sure, thank you. Looking
Thank
forward.
you. We look forward to it.
Now, I'm Brian Fernandez, and I've been speaking to Nitesh, Malani, Mahendra, Kumar, Chairman of Yayasan, Usahawan, Malaysia, and founder of the SME and Entrepreneurs Business Awards, and Syed Sadiq Albar, Managing Director of Usaha Teknikal, Sadiq Berhad, and co-founder of Project 57. We've been speaking on BizTech's SME show. This video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn site, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please subscribe or like our various platforms.